Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of LawTech Connect on Litera TV. My name is Adriana Linares. I'm the lucky person who gets to host these fun episodes. And my guest today is Joshua Bonnici.
Bonnici, yeah, very close. Very good.
Bonnici. I should have picked up my Italian to get there. Joshua, I appreciate your time today. Tell me, where are you right now?
I'm in my office downtown San Diego, right on the I-5 S curve. So if anyone ever needs to know live traffic update, I can usually give it to them.
You can look outside and be like, don't leave the office right now. It's terrible.
Exactly. Find a detour. Yeah.
Are you from sunny San Diego?
I am. I've been here since about 5 years old, did all my schooling here.
Sure.
And it's hard to leave once you establish some roots down in San Diego.
Yeah, it's a really nice city. I talk about it a lot because I work for the San Diego County Bar half-time as their technology and practice management advisor. And I really like the legal community there. I say that over and over again. I just think there's so much diversity, not just in the people, but also in the types of law between the maritime law, reservation law, immigration, and military law, which I've interviewed a couple of
Yeah.
military law lawyers. It's just so interesting, such a weird conglomeration of people and societal factors that make it so interesting. Plus, it's always nice weather, as they say.
Yeah, sometimes it makes it hard to stay in your office, right?
Yeah.
With the weather being so nice all year round. But
Yeah.
we'll make do.
For sure. So tell me about your law firm. How big is it? What role do you play? How long have you had it or been there?
So I started my own practice at the end of 2012. So it'll be 9 years this October.
Excellent.
I started it as a solo practitioner, actually with the Thomas Jefferson School of Law Incubator, which I'll give them a small shout out. I was the first cohort with them. And the wonderful Lalise McCoy was the director and kind of mentored us. I think there was 9 of us that started that. And we all kind of just brainstormed on how the best to start our own separate practices, but collaborate as much as we could. I grew that to hiring an assistant, I think within my first 9 months of having my own practice, knowing that I would need help. And then scaled it up. We were a team of 5 people up till about last year. And now we're 4, and we're humming along with myself, an associate attorney, an office manager, and an assistant. I act as managing attorney for the practice. And yeah, we're really excited to continue on helping the community and working with San Diego.
Oh, that's awesome. And when you decided to go out on your own, was the incubator there and you're like, oh, I've got this learning opportunity, I'm going to jump into this incubator? Or did you get into the incubator and then say, I could probably start a solo or small practice based on the information I'm gathering from the incubator?
No, so you had to apply to get into the incubator and already kind of have either something established or ready to go. So during almost all of 2012, I worked for a legal marketing company and was doing well on that, but I was like, God, this isn't what I want to do forever. So ended up talking with a friend of mine who I went to law school with, thinking we were going to team up. That kind of fell apart, but I already got the taste in my mouth that I wanted to get out and start practicing law. And I did that. And I think a month or 2 into it, someone dropped out of the incubator system. So that gave me the opportunity to go in and apply. And so I kind of got my spot in and hit the ground running all of 2013, sharing a small little interior office with another lawyer and just doing the hustle. And so it kind of grew from there.
The hustle, for sure. Did you mention that you worked for a legal marketing company? Is that what you said?
For a year. Yeah.
For a year. So did you get enough knowledge and information that you knew how to market your practice when you got started, or was it not relatable, the experience you had from working there?
So the marketing firm I worked for only dealt with mass torts. So it's very niche part of personal injury.
Sure.
And I worked directly with, huge firms across the nation at all these big conferences and whatnot. And I kind of taught them and taught myself a little bit come on the marketing side of things, how to go ahead and screen for clients, how to use the leads that we were selling them. And through that, I learned a little bit more of like business development side of things. And that's kind of what I transferred over when I started my own practice.
That's great. And what type of law do you practice? You're here for a reason.
Right. So I do, on a grand scale of things, I do plaintiff's personal injury and disability appeals. Within those two, I kind of have two niches that I really focus on. So on the injury side, I really focus on bicycle accidents.
Excellent.
Then on the disability side of things, I focus on Erisa long-term disability appeals.
Tell us what that is. Erisa long-term disability appeals. Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. So I deal with long-term disability plans that an individual would have as a benefit through their employment. Okay. And those will be governed by Erisa. So that's why I throw that out there. And they're different than, say, if you were to buy a disability plan off of a financial advisor, or you're the person doing your retirement planning. That would be outside the purview of Erisa and be kind of a state court claim based on contract and bad faith. The Erisa side of things goes through the Erisa statute, which is 200 pages long and is very procedural and specific. And I love working within that. It's a little stringent, but I do like working with it because there's certain things you can do in there and work with clients to get them back on benefits that I find very rewarding and very, very a big touch on someone's life, because they're not getting the income that they should be getting through this disability plan that, they've been paying for, or their employer's been paying for years.
And do you have the whole 200 pages memorized? I feel like you probably do.
I'm up to 199 pages. That last one is just the worst. The nice part about footnotes, right? But the nice thing about really niching in this piece of the Erisa statute is the disability code really only kind of covers about a page and a half of that. So I've even taken such a small part. So Erisa covers everything from health insurance to pensions, life insurance, any type of benefit that's provided through employment, it will cover. So there's a lot of different things that could cover.
How did you get into that?
Well, so during law school, I did a lot of networking, and
very important.
It was. I befriended some attorneys up in northern San Diego who also do personal injury, and said, hey, if you're looking to get into your own practice and we're doing plaintiff's work, this has been a very successful and kind of diverse practice area. You should look into it.
No kidding.
So I looked into it. I felt like it complemented the injury side of my practice that I really enjoyed. And so I got into that way. And it actually has a little bit of a personal touch on my life too, because my father is actually on long-term disability payments right now. He was actually in a bad bicycle crash back in the late 90s and is disabled now. And so that's actually what has been keeping him getting income in everything since he hasn't been able to return to work. So I've actually seen the other side of it and how it affects families, how necessary it is. Yeah.
That must mean so much to your clients when you're able to say, like, truly say, I know what you're going through. I've been there, and like really mean it. Because, a lot of times we say, oh yeah, I know how you feel, but that must be really powerful when you're talking to those clients or potential clients.
It is, I try not to really bring it up too much to kind of make it, make it too personal of a thing. But, when I'm talking with people on how they're denied, how this is their only option, I know exactly what that means, because that was one of the main income sources for my family for several years while I still lived at home. So so I understand how that affects people 100%.
Yeah, that must be very rewarding then when you're able to help them. Total side note, because I'm sure you know this, but it's really cool to just watch those airplanes keep landing behind you at SAN.
Yep, I about 2.5 or 3 minutes or so. Yeah.
It's funny how soothing a lot of us find watching airplanes land. Plus, I love that little airport. It's so convenient. Okay, so let's talk about the other side of your world, which is the personal injury side. And you've got a bunch of areas that you do, obviously probably general, but the bicycle law is interesting because it's so very nichey. How did you get into that? I mean, this can't be your dad again.
Well, so my father and I got into mountain biking when I was young. And so I've been riding all over San Diego for nearly 30 years, and I've always really enjoyed it. It's been my passion. And when I opened my my practice, I figured, a lot of the cases I could be handling are bike cases.
Right.
I speak that language. This is something that I do on the weekends anyway. So why can't I marry these two things together?
Yes.
And be the guy who helps out these cyclists. So I think 2014 is kind of when I started really pushing, going, okay, this is what I'm going to start doing. I went out and I bought myself a road bike. I only had mountain bikes at the time, and started riding with groups. I started sponsoring groups and really getting into it. And now I've branding myself as the San Diego bicycle lawyer, helping people who get hit by cars, who get stop sign tickets on their bike, hit potholes, things like that. And then really big, a really big part of it is educating the public on bicycle law, on why cyclists do what they do, right? So I do feel like I think that's part of my responsibility, is trying to prohibit some of these incidents from happening, right? So that people really aren't getting hurt and they can go out and enjoy the beautiful San Diego and the sports they love without fear of, really having a really bad accident happening. And, if I can have one accident avoided, I think my mission would be successful. So,
I say this almost every episode I do, and that is lawyers that end up wanting to come and talk to me, whether it's here or on my podcast, are inherently teachers, educators. Just want to be helpful to either their peers or, in your case, the public. And I love that. And it's just a pattern I see over and over again. Not to say that we don't all want to do that in our lives. I mean, we always want to help other people, but it's a recurring theme that I see with lawyers that come on here. And I love hearing that. How do you get that message out? And I'm sure it's also part of your business development and brand awareness. And when somebody does need a bicycle lawyer, we know we've got Joshua. Do you do talks and webinars? Do you educate through your website? How do you do your client development? And is that part of it?
A lot of it is, trying to just get my brand awareness of who I am and people understanding that I'm a cyclist and a lawyer. I find that to be really important. And pre-COVID, I would try to go out and do some speaking engagements and talk with cycling groups. The big thing is, okay, there's two pieces of this. What to do if a car accident happens, right? And ways that you can abide by the law when riding, and where you should be, where you can't be, how the law interacts with the road in of itself. So I do that a lot. We're doing videos. I put blogs and things on my website all the time. I'm trying to share through social media for education. And then I get out to, I go sponsor events. I've got a tent with my logo on it, and I go out to some big rides. I do group rides and just talk to people. And, I'll go to an event and talk to 100 people, and, 65 of them is like, well, I have this friend who may have done this, and so, on risk of not giving legal advice, they always have questions on, well, can I do this? Can I write there? And I want to make sure that they have the right information to be able to make safe and good decisions, to abide by the law, be where they're supposed to be, but also be able to ride home, and then even talk to drivers. I have people who don't ride come up and go, oh my gosh, all these cyclists in the middle of the road, they think they're on the road. And I try my best to have a real kind of constructive, low key conversation with them on, well, I'd love to explain to you why they're there, and usually I can see a light bulb or two come on. They're going to go, okay, that makes sense. And so get out there, do a lot of education, and then, word spreads. And, that's kind of how I'm trying to become the bike guy in town.
I think that's great. Do you do a lot of paid advertising too? Or are you finding that you're getting a lot of referrals through your presence in the community and social media? I'm going to ask you about social media separately, but just being active in the community, do you find you get a lot of referrals?
I think that's probably the most bike referrals I get, is just being active in the community, doing group rides.
Of course.
I sponsor a couple of race teams, so my logo's there. But just being out and about and someone who's approachable and also a cyclist, right? I think that's important. At least that's what I tell my wife. I tell her I've got to ride all the time so that I have the experience. It's marketing. I got to go out for 3 or 4 hours on Saturday. I do races, all that stuff, so that people know that I care a little bit about credibility with that as well, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, what gets me most of my business is just being within the community, shaking hands and riding bikes.
And it's something that you love.
Right. Why not?
Right. Why not? I say this all the time. So I do a lot of talks for law schools. I have a lot of friends that are professors, and they'll say, hey, can you come to a talk for my, and it's usually about technology. How do you start your own practice? What's the basics that you need? But I literally cannot help myself in encouraging them to find areas of law that they're interested in and passionate about, because I've been doing this a long time, and I see too many lawyers who just hate their jobs. They're pencil pushers. They work for big firms, and every day is torture. And then, of course, wellness goes down the drain when you don't like your job. So I love hearing and talking to lawyers who are embedded in their niche, in their area of law. It makes it a lot easier to go to work every day. I just interviewed a couple weeks ago an attorney for NASCAR. Okay.
Oh, wow.
I know. I was like,
yeah.
And do you like car racing? Kind of like, and he's like, I do. And then I said, well, that must be awesome. You must really love your job. And he said, I do, but I love my job because of the people I work with, which was also, so I'm always the one that's like, you got to do what you're passionate about. You have to love what you do. And he reset my reminder that it's also about who you get to work with. So I think if you can combine those things, man, you're a lawyer with the best of both worlds. And I'm sure you have a great team surrounding you, as small as it is. I'm sure it's like a family.
And it is. And it's funny that you mentioned kind of the people that you work with, because sometimes on my end, when I'm doing some of my business development, kind of doing my branding, I've really had to tailor it down to not be the guy who says, oh, I'm the guy you call when the car, runs you over in the intersection. Because nobody wants to talk about that. Everyone knows that it is a risk, right? But, really positioning and saying, hey, these things are going to happen. I'm doing my best to try to keep them from happening as often, but it's going to happen. And if it does, then it might as well be my office to help these people, so that I know how they can get back on the bike. I know how to help them with a property damage claim when they have, a full carbon race bike that was, shipped in from Italy. I know how to handle all those things, speak that language, even on technology, go into their GPS recordings that show how much they ride, what type of fitness they have, and show that and be able to speak that language with them, right? And a lot of times when I'm talking to clients, we just start talking about bike rides and races we've done and bikes that we want to buy. And so it turns kind of into that as well, where you're creating rapport and really helping people that you enjoy.
Right. So here's another angle I hadn't thought of, which is you get to work with clients that you probably really like because you have a lot of things in common and you can speak their language. So there's a lot to it. So I'm interested in how, aside from, you keep using marketing terms. And of course, I have a lot of lawyers that are still trying to figure out how to market. Should I get a social media? What does branding really mean? I've got a cool domain name. I've got a niche name for my practice. So give listeners just, and other attorneys that can learn from you, some ideas and suggestions about what marketing is. And I know getting out in the community is again, a pattern I hear over and over again. You can do all the paid searches you want or all the paid advertising, but man, there is nothing like networking and being out in the community.
So my approach to marketing, I think, really goes towards where my clients are when I know they need me, right? What is it? The old King Stallman, I think, commercials. It's better to know me and not need me than to need me and not know me, right?
So true.
And so I've kind of taken that to heart and kind of going, okay, you and I could talk about all day about how great of a personal injury attorney I am. And, if you ever get an accident, you need to hire me. And here's all these facts. Doesn't really matter, right? Because you don't need me right now. You may not need me ever. You may not need me for 2 years. So my approach has always been kind of a branding and brand awareness. And when something happens, I want you to think Bonnici Law Group, right? So that's kind of what I put out. So in my social media, in my newsletters. I'm kind of using those as touches. And I feel like if I can get a good touch once a month or so, then I can stay on top of mind with somebody for about a week.
Yep.
Right. And so if that means that my logo is on a jersey that someone sees, I create bike water bottles with my logo on. Most of my collateral that I make don't even have my phone number on, just my logo and my name. Keep it
Excellent.
simple, not screaming at people, right? And so it's slower that way, to be honest, rather than doing pay-per-click. So I'm at the very top, every time. It's slower, but it's a better connection because people are like, no, I've seen you all over the place. And then someone says your name, like, I don't even get into my sales speech. A lot of times people are like, no, let's just go. Like, go ahead and let's retain your office. So that type of marketing is always what I've gone to, is personal brand awareness, kind of soft touches.
Yeah.
Often enough to where they don't feel bombarded, but enough to where I become a mainstay in their view, so that once they need me, ideally I'm the first one, maybe in the first one or two that they think of, that I get the opportunity to speak with them.
So you sound like a pretty unusual PI attorney. You're not too pushy.
I try not to be. Yeah.
No, I like your approach. And I think it's important to say it can be slower, but it's a marathon, not a sprint when it comes. You're going to have this law practice for years. Why try to cram it all into the first couple of years of opening a practice or spending tens of thousands of dollars? I've got a PI attorney down in Florida who spends $60,000 a month. Now, he gets it back, so it's worth it. That's why he keeps spending it. But, not everyone can do that at first when they're building. So I think that's really good advice. And really, so do you put a lot of personality into your post? Do you manage your own social media, or does someone manage it for you? Is there a combination?
It's a little bit of a combination. Someone else has been doing most of my posts for the past 9 months.
It's really hard to find time. I mean, it's right. It is. So,
but before it was mainly me. So I was able to kind of keep it light, keep it educational. I try to stay away from blood and guts on, on there. But educational and things that people that want to know and they're interested in. Because again, if you get kind of one of the same boilerplate kind of garden variety ads, I feel like people just skim right over that when they're scrolling. And so if I can grab their attention real quick, get a quick click so they can look and kind of associate the logo and kind of what we're doing. Someone told me, I don't remember who it was, that if you give good information for free, imagine what I can get from them if I retain them. And so I've always wanted to kind of give some of that good information. Don't be afraid to do that, because it will come back. It almost always does.
So you mentioned that you were doing your own until about 9 months ago. Was there a boom in business during COVID for you?
No, actually. So like the summertime of COVID was the slowest because people weren't driving as much. I think they said it was 70 to 80% down in transportation cars.
Glorious days to be driving around Southern California. I mean, just glorious.
I'll tell you, it was glorious to ride a bicycle in San Diego because so many more people were on bikes. It was awesome to see. And, I love to ride the coast up here as much as I can. And the beaches were closed. So there was no parking. Nobody was parked on the side of the street. There was no cars. It was great. And thankfully that actually didn't create a boom in business for me, because you saw so many families out there because they couldn't go to the beach. They couldn't go to the gym. Towards the end of the year, we had a little bit bigger of a boom. And I started kind of tweaking a little bit on what I wanted to do with my marketing. And so that's why I brought someone else on. They're handling that kind of behind the scenes.
That's great. And tell me a little bit about your office infrastructure. So you're back at the office when California was on the hardest lockdown. So I spend a lot of time in Florida and New Orleans, which it's funny. I always say Florida and California, the states, and then I always have to hone in on New Orleans. It's not Louisiana. It's specifically New Orleans. But I spent a lot of time in Florida, California, and New Orleans. And California was on heavy lockdown. When we came into town, it was hard. So what did you do as far as, did you guys work from home? Were you still able to come in? And what are things looking like today?
So I personally was in the office most days during the COVID lockdown. My staff worked from home. We kind of, were able to utilize enough of the technology that we have to be able to work remotely. I don't like working from home, and so I kind of was the gopher in the office. If someone said, "Hey, I need you to scan this from the paper file," I was distributing mail. Making sure that everything was still moving. And so I think for the first 5 months, I was pretty much here by myself with my team at home, and the team slowly started coming back in, and we've been full strength in the office now for a little bit. And so it's really nice to have everyone back. The camaraderie is something I miss. I think we have my associate attorney's birthday is on Thursday, so we're supposed to go out to, actually we're going to go out to lunch as a group
for the first time.
Outside, and I know, and do that stuff that we miss, because we're a small office, so I really like to treat it as a family and do things outside the office, and really, make sure that we're not living to work, but we're working to live. Right.
Yeah, that's really nice. And that's like back to what I was said when we first started talking, which is sometimes big law firms can be stifling. Wait, was that this conversation? Was it the last one I had? Were we talking about that?
I think a little bit, but
I've talked to so many
right in here. Yeah.
Seriously, I talk to so many lawyers every day. I forget.
I'm sorry.
No, I love it too. I love my job. I love helping lawyers. They're smart and funny, and except obviously I've lost my mind, but it's 5:30 here in Florida. So
yeah. You need that second coffee or something stronger soon.
Good Lord. What was I going to ask you? Oh, I think I was just saying it's nice that you're able to do that. And it sounds like that training you got through the incubator, plus your networking and advice from helpful lawyers and attorneys. You sound like the type of person that loves getting advice just as much as you like giving it. So it sounds like you've built a really nice practice.
Yeah, it's funny to think that it's been 9 years now, because in a way I feel like it's been longer, and in a way I feel like it's been shorter. And so I'm still blessed and humbled to have my name on the door and be able to help so many clients. And really kind of, I think, help out the local community that's helped me out so much, and give back and enjoy my life while I'm doing it. So
yeah, that's wonderful. Well, it's absolutely lovely to meet you, Joshua. Tell everyone where they can find, friend, or follow you if they want to follow you on that social media and get some lighthearted, fun information about who knows what, but including bicycle law and bicycle tips.
Sure. Yeah. So on Facebook, you can find me under Bonnici Law Group. That's BONNICI. On Instagram, I'm SD Bike Lawyer.
Nice.
So you can find me both places there. You get some fun bike tips. Sometimes pictures of me on a bike. So sorry about that. And sometimes you even see our office dog, Marley.
Oh, God, I'd love to meet Marley.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can see if she can come up real quick.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Marley. Hey, Marley, come here. Come here. She is asleep. She is not interested. But if you go on my social media, she usually pops up at least once a month. And she's in the office most days. So if you want to come in and meet her and have a coffee and talk about biking, that's one of my favorite things to do.
That's awesome. It's really nice to meet you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. Totally appreciate it, Joshua.
Pleasure speaking with you.